This next question is for all of the candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Tracy. This is probably a fairly quick question for most of you. Do you live on the lake?
No, I do own property at the lake.
Mrs. Mary Perry, do you live on the lake?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Jeff Foster, do you live on the lake?
No idea.
Mr. Bill Bailey, do you live on the lake?
No, I don't, but I did for about 30 years.
Mr. David Skog, do you live on the lake?
No, I do not.
And Mr. Ron Covey, do you live on the lake?
I live just above the lake in the Lake area.
This next question is for Mr. Bill Bailey. If elected, would you have a conflict of interest being on the board and owning the building, the MLIRD leases?
Well, I've been waiting for that question. That came up 2 years ago when I ran, and by the way, I sat up here alone at a forum because my opponent, Mr. Hanson, had other responsibilities that evening. The question is, would I have a conflict of interest? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. The reason for that is there was a lease that was established about 2 years ago, run for 5 years, and as long as that lease is not renewed during my term, I don't have a conflict of interest. It's been my feeling that perhaps the district needs to come up with their own facility at some point. And as you know, everything happens funny sometimes, but a real cute thing that I thought was cute in a sour sort of way was when we renewed the lease a couple of years ago, 2 weeks after the lease was renewed, we got a medical group expressing an interest in the building, but we couldn't sell it. And by the way, I don't own it alone. I'm part of an LLC that owns it, and I don't currently, I'm not the active manager of that building either.
This next question is for Mr. David Scott. You seem very skeptical of the board, the current board. Where do you get your information, and do you attend the board meetings?
I've attended 2 board meetings. That's probably not a whole lot of them, but it seems like that has been enough for me to at least make some opinions. I've talked with other people who have been there. I've seen some of it on TV. They seem to be quite raucous at times. The direction of the board, it seems somewhat dysfunctional. I think the 5 people are going to have a big impact on that. But I don't think that, I think that different people on that, a different mix of people would probably do well. That board should not be just a rubber stamp. It seems that oftentimes it is a rubber stamp. I think there are a lot of people on this stage today that have a lot of good experiences, myself included, that could be a real asset to just changing that board and changing, I think, some of the directions that it's going, and can make some good decisions. I think that's that's the only thing we ask the board to do, is to listen to the facts and make good decisions. And they're not there to just say yes, but they're there to make a decision. And I think that's what you need to find out and come to grips with, is who can make a good decision based on the facts. And I think to be part of a board like that would be a pleasure. And I think it would be a fun experience. And it doesn't need to be a contentious train wreck. So I think I could be part of a good experience and a well-run board.
This next question is for Mr. Bill Bailey, Mary Perry, and Larry Tracy. I'll start with Mr. Tracy. How many MLIRD meetings have you attended over the past 2 years?
Just one. The last one is
Same question for Mary Perry. How many MLIRD meetings have you attended over the past 2 years?
I can't give you an exact number, but I attended the majority of them. Not this year, but the year prior, often there were continued meetings, so there was more than 12 a year. I did attend, I would say that I maybe missed 2 or 3 total out of the last 2 years.
And the same question to Mr. Bill Bailey. How many MLIRD meetings have you attended over the past 2 years?
I think about half of them. And again, Mary mentioned that there was extra meetings the previous year. I've attended several this year and a lot of them last year.
Next question is for Mr. David Skog and Mrs. Mary Perry. I'll start with Mr. Skog. How would you rate the performance of the current MLIRD Board of Directors? Substandard, standard, or above standard, and why?
I think I've already answered that one, substandard. I think it just hasn't been a board that's been able to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. It's just been too contentious, and that needs to change. I think it can change, and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and I think that's a real possibility, particularly again with a 5-member board. I think that'll be a pivotal point in the direction of the MLIRD.
And we have the same question for Mrs. Mary Perry. How would you rate the performance of the current MLIRD Board of Directors? Substandard, standard, or above standard, and why?
I would have to say that they are above standard. I've seen a lot of progress made. The meetings are not contentious like they were in the prior year. I agree with David by increasing to 5 members. We'll have lots more opportunity for more input, more ideas, and things that will only help the board. If I am elected to this position, I will be an independent thinker. I have no intention of rubber stamping anything or anybody. I will do my own research and come to my own conclusions. Thank you.
We have a question for Mr. Bill Bailey and Mr. Larry Tracy. I'll start with Mr. Bill Bailey. What is the district's water right?
Well, the district's water right, if you're asking what is the number, as I understand, is 50,000 acre-feet per year. And that is water that was initially established back in the 20s or so to be used for agriculture around Moses Lake. And those of you that have lived here a long time, I see Errol sitting out in the audience, go ask him for a picture of what Moses Lake looked like in the 20s, meaning the community. And you'll notice there was farm ground throughout all of this area, probably including right here. That was initially what the water right was established for. And it means that we annually have the opportunity to use 50,000 acre feet. By the way, that's the equivalent of 50,000 acres, 1 foot deep, that much water around the lake within the district. That's a very important number, it's a very valuable number, and it's something that I don't believe that we can afford to lose. We have a significant amount of farm ground that is still irrigated by water from this lake. And we have a lot of homeowners and property owners that depend on the water as well. And as I said earlier, I believe that in the future we need to have developed the infrastructure to provide every ratepayer the opportunity to use that water, because our drinking water is going to run out. We know that. It's not something that we can argue about. It's a fact that exists, and we need to do something about it, and we need to start that planning now.
Mr. Larry Tracy, what is the district's water right?
Back in the 1970s, when I was dealing with the Odessa groundwater sub-area and Quincy groundwater sub-area and some regs there, and we were looking at the Moses Lake. We were looking at those certificates for a lot of things, the state groundwater rights certificates and surface water rights certificates. At that time, the district's water right was strictly 50,000 acre feet. And it was a storage right. It was not a use right. I don't know, I've been told that changed at some point in time. I've never seen where that did change. But that's my understanding of the right. There's a difference considerably between a use right and a storage right with the Department of Ecology. But at this point in time, it looks like there may have been some of it converted to a use right when the things changed in the late 70s, early 80s. But I haven't been aware or have seen anything to say that it's anything other than a 15,000 acre foot storage right.